a solution. And
no, okay,
if
but
the
let
judge
me
is
interrupt
giving
you
the
real
green
quick, because
light,
I know Democrats
wait,
are doing. I know Democrats are doing something they have told us for years that Republicans were wrong for doing, even as they're arguing that their withholding of votes is somehow different, right? But the question I'm asking you, because you're a Republican, and that is your party, and that is your party in the White House making that decision. Do you think it's fair to use hunger of the country's most needy as leverage?
I was just about to answer when you interrupted me, because the blame is not just on this administration, because this administration is not the one that voted to shut down the government. It was the Senate Democrats that chose to. But what I'm simply saying is, if the Democrats are not going to vote to reopen the government, they want to continue using this leverage and inflict this type of pain on the American people unnecessarily, then what I think the president and the administration should do is what they've done with the women infant children program. They were able to find some money to shift funds to continue that program, very critical for young families that I represent. They found funds from Pentagon Research and Development to be able to pay our military. And as I said earlier, they should do the same here if given, which they seem to have received, green lights from the judges to allow them to use it. The issue remains. It is simply a Band-Aid. $5 billion is not going to cover $8 billion in necessary costs. That's what you need to cover the benefits for the 42 million Americans. So yes, they should do what they can today to prevent people from having to face this hardship of not having to be able to put food on their table. But we have to recognize that it's not just about this. We also have, as you mentioned, the air traffic controllers, the federal employees who are not getting paid. They're also worried about putting food on the table, paying their mortgage, paying their car payments at the end of the month. Everybody is struggling here, and it's unnecessary. That's my point. My point is that I don't understand why from the beginning the Senate Democrats just simply chose not to vote for the same bill that they supported 4 times before. We did not try to put any political any gimmicks in there or add unrelated outside policy. In fact, that's what they're trying to do right now, and they're leveraging the pain of the American people to do that, and it is simply wrong. It is wrong, and they should just stop this today. Let's reopen the government. We're happy to talk about health care and other issues. The health care issue is a real issue. And why is it? Because the Affordable Care Act was never actually affordable. And that is why these subsidies are needed to the insurance companies.
Okay, many things to talk about there. And listen, I'm in my 40s now, and I was in my 20s when I was a congressional correspondent covering the passage of Obamacare. Democrats and Republicans have switched control of Congress many times since then. They have had a lot of time to deal with the cost of health care. Both parties have. But to your point, I mean, even if Democrats are to blame for the shutdown, and they're going to disagree with you on that, but let's just take that for a ride. Republicans, the White House still has the ability to use these contingency funds. That is not the fault of Democrats to pull that, to not use those, so that even now, if they are used, there's going to be an interruption, right? Even if Democrats are to be held accountable for that, this was a choice by this administration to not use those funds. How is that not using hunger of the neediest Americans for leverage?
Well, because again, they did not shut down the government. As somebody who voted to fund the government, I voted to fund the government because I didn't want to see it come to this. I did not want to see people in my district who rely on SNAP end up not receiving benefits. I didn't want to see my military, I represent Coast Guard and Army base, that they would not get paid, or the federal workers that I have. I made a choice to fund the government despite not liking everything that was in not everything that was in that funding package. But here we are. Look, the fact remains that even if we put this Band-Aid, which I said it this is my 3rd time now saying that the Trump administration should do what it can. If they can use $5 billion according to the judge, then use the $5 billion. It's still $8 billion for the month, and then next month's going to be another $8 billion, another $8 billion after that. The money is just simply not there to continue this in perpetuity. We need to fund the government. Now, the Democrats made a conscious choice, knowing that this was going to happen, that there would be flight delays and a transportation nightmare come the holidays. They knew that the military wasn't going to get paid. They knew women and children and infants were not going to get their supplemental WIC. They knew that the SNAP benefits were not going to come in. And yet they made the conscious decision to vote no on a bill that they negotiated and then voted for 3 times to extend. To me, that makes absolutely no sense. So yes, President Trump should do what he can to help. And if we can use $5 billion, they should use the $5 billion. But it's not going to be enough. It's merely a Band-Aid. What we really need is the Senate Democrats to stop these shenanigans, reopen the government, just like all these unions who have endorsed them are now calling for them to do. All these unions, American Federation of Government Employees being the largest, representing 1 million people, have called on the senators to do this, to pass the bill that we passed out of the House. No gimmicks. No political shenanigans, just a clean extension of government. That is the right thing to do.
Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis, we always appreciate you coming on. I will say I would be remiss if I didn't tell our viewers there is a Washington Post poll out that shows there are more Americans, especially registered voters, or not registered voters, this actually that kind of closes the gap, that are blaming President Trump and congressional Republicans than Democrats. That is closing, though. So that is something that we're seeing a lot of pressure on, and we are certainly watching as the pressure is ramping up a lot.